Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to 8-Bit Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the games that I play, not necessarily games that I play on the channel, you know. Today's review, for example, is a game that I don't think I will ever play for YouTube, you know, because it's just way too complicated, you know, and I get way too damn scared playing The Evil Within, you know, and I beat it some time ago and I decided I think I'm going to review it for YouTube just to talk a little bit about it, you know. And before I continue though, let me just give a little disclaimer here. Now, the game might change depending on how sensitive of a person you are to horror, you know. I do love horror, you know. I like watching movies, TV shows, you know, and this was actually like not really my first, I could say my first real true authentic horror game. I did play Man of Medan before, but even though it is a little creepy, I didn't really consider it to be too much horror. The Evil Within was much worse, you know, so this is what I consider to be my first true horror game experience, you know, and it's just crazy, you know, because Man of Medan is more like choice-based survival, you know. This one is more third-person action thriller, you know, so yeah. So my opinion might be very biased in the fact that I can be a scaredy cat sometimes, you know. I avoided playing the game at night, and I kid you not, it did give me nightmares once or even twice if I can recall. I think I had a dream about one of the characters a second time, you know, but anyway, I'm gonna get to that later. So the game is really interesting. It was released back in 2014, and it sort of like feels like the old Resident Evil games, you know, with the third-person perspective, you know, when you're playing as Leon, for example. I think it's Leon. Yeah, the blonde guy. So, and Resident Evil is more about action, and this one is much more disturbing with the imagery, you know, because we have very memorable characters, namely the antagonists, you know, who are coming after you. You play as Sebastian how do I pronounce his name? Sebastian Castellanos, you know, and he's a regular detective, a cop, you know, but once he gets to a hospital to investigate something, he is suddenly pulled into a really crazy world with nightmarish creatures and crazy visuals and darkness and blood, gore, violence, you know. Everything is crazy. Everything just looks really horrid, you know. Everything is scary as hell. And right from the get-go, the game establishes that it really wants to confuse you and doesn't care if you understand its plot or not, because one of the biggest bones that I have to pick with this game is the confusion, you know. It gets way too confusing. It's like you're warping through portals and going to different places, you know, almost like you're time traveling. Then there's, you know, mind control and going back to the past and illusions, hallucinations, you know. Everything is really crazy, and it really made me feel unsettled. It was definitely an interesting experience, not necessarily good or bad, just interesting. Like if I could sum this game up with one adjective, it would be just that: interesting, you know. Weird, confusing, but the closest that I could come to positive is interesting. And you do have weapons at your disposal, different firearms and melee weapons that you can kill the enemies. It does have a very interesting mechanic where once you down an enemy, you can light the body with a match to make sure it's going to actually die, or else they can actually get back up, you know, unless you shoot them in the head and blow up their face, you know. That's also an insta-kill. But the enemies are pretty challenging, you know, even on the lowest difficulties, and the game's atmosphere is what really sells it, you know, because it's really hard for you to play a game like this and not feel creeped the F out, you know. Even if you consider yourself tough and a horror aficionado, you know, it's really hard to play this game and not feel, I don't know, like there's something wrong, like all the time, you know.
Losing our minds.
Leslie! There's something wrong with this place.
He wants out!
Now, the game pretty much subliminally encourages you to use stealth whenever possible, you know. You can approach combat in two different ways. You can try to go out, you know, guns blazing, attract enemies and shoot them all as they come at you, or you can try to sneak up behind them and do stealth kills. You can set traps, you can do spike traps, barbed wire traps, bear traps, bombs, you know, the whole arsenal. And I actually don't really have the patience to set traps when I'm playing a game on a really low difficulty, you know. I like to just go in guns blazing. You guys might have seen that with my recent playthrough of Gears of War, you know. So you know, I'm gonna leave a link to the playlist up here in case you guys want to watch that later, you know. I just go in guns blazing. I very rarely stay in cover when I'm playing on an easy difficulty setting, so it's just much easier for me. But in this game, I really felt scared sometimes, man, especially because of the bosses, you know. There are a few bosses that you have to fight and defeat in different ways. Let me see if I can remember them in no particular order. There is my absolute favorite, I say ironically, you know, Laura, and also there's I think she's actually reborn Laura because she was a character who was killed many years ago, you know, and now she comes back as a multi-limbed demon from hell, you know. She crawls on all fours but has a lot of different limbs all over the place, you know. She will grab you and crush you instantly. Then there's her old friend Ruvik, who was inside of a barn where I think he died with her, you know, in a fire, or he was experimented on. He's essentially the main antagonist, you know. He's the one who you fight the most and who torments you the most amount of times as well. And then there's the Keeper, who's he's kind of like try to imagine Pyramid Head from Resident Evil, you know, but instead of a pyramid, he has like a safe on his head, you know. He's a little bit bigger, and he, as the safe would suggest, he keeps something. I guess he's like the guardian or something, you know. It was really frustrating to fight this guy because he keeps dying and coming back, dying and coming back, dying and coming back, you know. Then there's the Sadist, who's like pretty much Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, where he wears a really crazy weird mask with a chainsaw, tries to kill you, you know. He's actually the first enemy that you encounter in the game, and it was just really freaking I don't know, man. His spike metal mask just really creeped me out, you know. And you actually fight them multiple times, you know. Laura was the one that most unsettled me. The second time that you fight Laura, where you actually have the option to kill her, you know, I think halfway through the game I ran, and I think I spent a good few days doing that, man. I read so many written guides, watched so many videos, and it took me so long to actually do her in, you know. Because why did I sound like a British now? Do her in. It took me so long to get rid of her, because I didn't even try to kill her. I didn't even try to get the achievement tied to it. I didn't care. I just wanted to get the hell out of there as fast as I could, you know. When I finally escaped from her, my God, I was like, I was sitting on my couch like this for 10 minutes, like just hyperventilating, man, because beating her was a challenge. And there is a very intricate upgrade system where you can upgrade your weapons and stuff, you know, to give yourself better artillery, you know, better guns, you know, more powerful, more accuracy, more firepower. You get a pistol, a shotgun, an automatic machine gun, you know, a bunch of different stuff, you know. Don't think it's going to actually say it here. I guess not, but there's a bunch of different melee weapons. There's different guns, you know, and also there are some collectibles that you can gather, which I barely tried to. I will probably never play this game again for the collectibles, for the completionists, you know, because you gotta beat the game on the hardest difficulty mode to get all the achievements, and that's not gonna happen.
This is my will.
Okay, so I found it here, you know, the little, in the cheat sheet here, you know. I also had a revolver, you know. In total, I had a revolver, shotgun, sniper rifle, knife, grenades, and the agony crossbow, you know, which is a projectile that fires different bolts, and that you can electrocute, you know, or freeze, or set fire, you know, do a whole bunch of other stuff to enemies. There are spikes too. It's been a while since I've played, guys, and since finishing The Evil Within, I have played a lot of other games, so I need this little cheat sheet here to remind me, you know, some of the things that happened. The story was insanely confusing. It was all over the place. It wasn't very intricately woven, in my opinion, you know. The characters weren't really likable or even relatable, not even the main protagonist, Sebastian, who you play as, you know. But maybe I spent more time being scared than actually trying to understand the story and piece it together. Every collectible that I got, I tried to read and understand what was going on, you know. I paid attention during all of the cutscenes, you know. I even did a little bit of research. I watched some videos online explaining the story, but it was still really hard to understand, you know. It's tough to grasp, but you know, there is also this mechanic of a safe haven, you know, where you wake up in a hospital and there's a nurse who greets you. You can save your game, you can upgrade your weapons, you know, and sometimes you're safe, you know. Usually you're there, you can get some collectibles and get some other supplies, open up coin lockers, you know, with keys that you find when you break like these Madonna statues all over the place. But there were a few instances where the game pulls the rug out from under you, you know, with the expectation factor, because it's not always safe, you know. Well, I think on more than one occasion, Ruven Ruvik has appeared, you know, there. So whenever I saw Ruvik, I already knew I wasn't safe, you know. I started to sympathize with him a lot more because I understand the story. He was burned alive, you know, with Laura in a barn. They were childhood friends, or maybe even they were dating or something, I don't know. And when you do finally fight him, it's a really crazy fight, you know. It's like you go inside the bowels of his brains or something. You fight this really huge creature that you have to shoot over and over again. There are a few different stages, you know. I felt really tense during this part, but honestly, throughout the entire game, what scared me the most was Laura. There's no doubt, because she can teleport, right? So she might be at the end of the hallway, then suddenly she might be in front of you or next to you or behind you, and she can crawl very slowly, menacingly, or she can run very fast. No, not even run, sorry, she crawls. It's like a freaking scorpion. She crawls really fast, you know, and it's really disturbing, you know, because when you turn around and see her, you're like, okay, I ran really far, I'm probably really away from her. Then you turn around and either she's crawling towards you really fast or she teleported, you know, right behind you. So it's a really complicated boss fight, but the game really balances out suspense with action, you know. There are a few scenes that encourage you to use stealth, you know, so you don't get scared. Sometimes you might see an enemy or a boss behind a corner, you know. There was one thing that happened to me that to this day I can't explain, you know, but nothing ever paid off, you know. I was in a level and I saw the keeper, the guy with the safe on his head. I saw him behind a corner and I said, okay, I'm gonna try to go around him, maybe sneak past or try to sneak attack or something, I don't know, or maybe prepare myself with some better weapons. When I came back around, he wasn't there anymore. He just disappeared, and I was like, wait a second, is the game making me hallucinate in real life or something, you know, because I could have sworn I saw the guy there, you know. He never showed up again after that in that stage, but eventually I killed him, and it was really satisfying. But there are elements of suspense and horror, you know. The game is creepy. You have a flashlight that you can use to illuminate certain areas, you know. I played it, you know, on my old TV where the lighting sucks, you know. Anything that happens at night looks really bad, and even on the maximum setting it sucked, you know. So without the flashlight, you would be really screwed, you know, to see the enemies coming at you in the dark. And the game does this really well. It does do this really well. The enemies, when they come at you, man, they really go at it, you know. And I can't remember too many more details, you know. The combat was okay, nothing too bad. The bosses, you know, or mini bosses, they were pretty challenging even on the casual difficulty. So the game really presented a very interesting experience, very dynamic, you know, always keeping you on your toes with the enemies, having to use different weapons to kill enemies in different ways, you know. So yeah, it really it was a very unique gaming experience, I can say that without a doubt. Now, I could say that the game had its moments, you know. There were a few interesting scenes, you know, that gave some good backstory, you know, and there were some moments where you had to really rack your brain to figure something out, you know. It was nice, man. It was good. I mean, it wasn't a terrible game, you know. I actually did like it. It's just not at the top of my list as, like, it's probably not gonna make even like the top 20 or top 50 list of games I've ever played, whether it be horror or otherwise, you know. There were a few elements, like, because the plot was so hard to follow and the game was long as hell, I think it took me 2 weeks to beat it, you know. There were like, what, 16 chapters or more, you know. It was a really long game. It was a really long game, you know. If I had to give it a rating, I would say 7 out of 10. You know, it's really didn't really tickle my fancy, you know. Once I started, I wanted to finish. I don't like starting a game, you know, and not finishing it, you know. I want to go, even if I take a while, I want to see that 100%, you know. I want to go to the end, and even if I never come back to play it again, I just want to finish it, you know, so I can properly evaluate it. The boss battle was very satisfying, albeit really hard to follow as well, just like the entire game that came before it, you know. So to me, it's alright. It's an alright game, you know. If you have not played it, well, it's not exactly recommended, but man, people say that the sequel was much better. In 2017, there was a direct sequel, you know, The Evil Within 2, and I still haven't played it. I have it on Game Pass. I did not play it yet, and I don't really intend to. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, guys, that's all I could say, you know. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, you know. Pretty okay game, you know, a very nice experience, you know, nice if you use the term loosely in this context here, you know. Everything was just way too confusing, man. The characters, the story, you know, development, like, it was hard to follow. It was satisfying to kill the enemies, you know, with weapons and certain bosses, getting past them and progressing, you know. Whenever I saw the level completed screen, I breathed a sigh of relief, you know. And you really should take it in strides, you know. Play a few levels, levels, you know, per day. You know, come back the next day and play another one. I actually managed to beat it while playing other games parallelly, some sports games, you know, so I could just not have that horror experience alone, you know. If I played it on this TV right now, I'd be really screwed. But anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys, you know. Let me know in the comments below if you happen to play this game, what you thought about it, you know. I didn't really like it too much, but here's the review. That's what reviews are for. It's not always going to be 10 out of 10s, right? So anyway, let me know if you played it, what you thought about it, and if you happen to like my review, go ahead and give this video a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, you really might as well hit the notification bell as well to know exactly what time I'm going to upload the next one, okay? So that's it for now, guys. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Why did I point over there? It's over here. In the next video, roll the outro screen over there, that direction there. Yeah.